Ada for not planning anything for Father's Day after my husband ruined my first Mother's Day. I'm 98.7% sure that I am not the AH here, but I'm wrong. I'm willing to admit it and learn from my mistakes. Our little boy will be 1 late this summer, so this was the first Mother's Day and Father's Day for both me and my husband. My husband asked what I wanted for Mother's Day. I didn't want/need anything big or expensive. What I asked for is for husband to get up with the little guy and get him fed while I pumped and chilled. Breakfast in bed, just toast, scrambled eggs and coffee. For us to take the little guy to the zoo for the first time. This was the main thing I was looking forward to. Go to my fave taco place for dinner. Between morning and afternoon naps we have about 4 hours of awake time. The zoo is ABT 30 minutes away, so I had figured if we left as soon as he got up from his nap and ate, we'd have a couple hours at the zoo and worst case he could sleep in the car on the way home. We took my mom and my MIL out to brunch the prior weekend to celebrate them, his mom on Saturday and my mom on Sunday. I also got them each a thoughtful little present and flowers to celebrate their first Mother's Day as grandparents. I arranged everything and told my mom and MIL that we'd be celebrating on the actual day with just our little family and sent them a group chat, which included husband, my dad, and FIL, just to make sure everyone is on the same page. My MIL is very pushy and overbearing, so I didn't want there to be any surprises or confusion. The Saturday before Mother's Day, FIL sent my husband a text with a picture of all the mulch he just had delivered and said something like "gonna be a busy weekend," or something like that. Apparently he had 300 bags of mulch. They have a big yard with lots of flower beds. That night my MIL called my husband and asked him to come over first thing in the morning to help his dad move the bags of mulch to where they were going to be used. She said since we weren't going to the zoo until after little guy's nap, that husband could go over and help for a couple hours and then come pick us up to go to the zoo. I was obviously not happy, but she guilted him and said FIL was going to end up hurting himself if he moved all that by himself and that it's not a big deal and should only take an hour or two. I told him his mom was doing this to try and get us to skip our plans and spend the day with them, but he kept saying it's not a big deal, saying his mom promised it would only take a couple hours, etc., etc. I think most people know what happened. Husband went over first thing, which means no breakfast in bed, and I had to get up to feed the little guy. I was kinda pissed, but whatever. Spent time with the little guy. Then when he went down for his morning nap I texted my husband to let him know he should start wrapping things up. Then when little guy woke up 2 hours later I called husband to tell him I'd be ready to go as soon as I finished feeding the little guy. He told me it was taking longer than he expected but that he'd hurry. Like an hour and a half later husband called and said they weren't done but he was getting ready to come home. It's 15 to 20 minute drive from MIL/FIL's house. At that point we'd missed the window to make it to zoo, so I told him to just stay there and finish and not worry about Mother's Day since he hadn't done a single thing I asked for. I don't think there was any doubt in his mind how pissed I was. A little later his mom called and said since we decided not to go to the zoo, that me and little guy should go hang out with her while the boys finished with the mulch. I admit that I was pretty pissy and told her I had no interest in spending time with the people who decided to ruin my first Mother's Day. I ended up staying home and ordering a pizza and binging Netflix. When husband got home he was all apologetic and asked how he could make it up. I was still pissed and told him he could make it up by not ruining my first Mother's Day. I also told him he should plan on spending Father's Day with his mom and dad. BC me and the little guy were going to go celebrate Father's Day with my mom and dad. Since Mother's Day MIL has been texting and calling, but I've been keeping conversations short and just giving very bland generic responses. My husband has been apologizing and asking what he can do, but honestly I don't want to bother. I know it's just a day and we can celebrate any time, like we did with my mom and MIL. But it was my first ever Mother's Day. And it's not like I asked for anything expensive or difficult. The only difficult thing is he's incapable of setting boundaries with his mom. And she's incapable of considering anyone's feelings but her own. This past Saturday he asked if I was still going to my parents, then said he'd like to go with us. I told him he could do whatever he wanted, but since I hadn't done anything for his dad he might want to go see him or something. We did both end up going to my parents and spending the day with them. It was actually a nice day. My dad insisted on grilling because of course he did, but the weather ended up being nice and we spent a lot of time hanging out on their deck playing with the little guy. I'm not sure what if anything my husband did for his dad. I know he was getting a lot of texts during the day, I assume from his mom. She did send me a snippy text saying it was hurtful to spend the day with my family at the expense of husband's, but I told her she got to spend Mother's Day with her baby boy, so it's only fair that I spend Father's Day with my family. I know my husband was hurt that we didn't acknowledge him for Father's Day, but I told him while we were driving to my parents' house that I'm just matching his energy. I admit that I haven't done anything to de-escalate the drama, but I'm still just so hurt he continues to prioritize his mom's feeling over our little family. This isn't the first time his mom has done crap like this, and I'm just so tired of it. She always oversteps and insists on doing what she wants. I'm doing better at keeping her at arm's length and holding my own boundaries, but my husband is absolutely incapable of it. For threatening to divorce my husband over Mr. Beast? 4. I'm seriously at my wit's end. My husband, M26, is partially deaf from DJing in his teens/early 20s, so he needs things louder to hear them. But what I don't get is why that has to mean I'm involuntarily listening to Mr. Beast yelling about burying himself alive or giving away $10,000 to strangers at 9 a.m. on a Sunday. He watches Mr. Beast videos on his phone at like 95 to 100% volume. Not even joking. He'll put a video on while he's in the shower, phone just blasting on the bathroom counter, and I can hear it clearly from 2 floors down. And it's always Mr. Beast. Not different YouTubers. Just him. Constantly. Same loud vibe, same chaotic energy, every day. I've asked him to wear headphones. He doesn't like them. I suggested subtitles. He doesn't want to read while relaxing. I even bought a small Bluetooth speaker thinking maybe it'd help if the sound was directional or just a bit better quality. Nope. Says he prefers it from the phone speaker. After the third time this week I got woken up by "Last TO leave the circle wins $500,000, echoing through the damn walls. I kinda snapped and said, half joking, if I hear one more Mr. Beast video at full volume I'm filing for divorce. Now he's sulking, saying I don't respect his hobbies or his hearing issues. But honestly, it's not just the volume. It's the content. I think it's childish. He's almost 30. Why is a grown man obsessed with videos made for 14-year-olds with zero attention span? I love him, but I just want peace and quiet in my own home. I'm tired of feeling like I live inside a YouTube thumbnail. Ada for wearing a ring on my left ring finger and reporting a coworker for confronting me about it? I am a guy. Before I started at my current job, I bought a ring that I really liked. I started wearing it on my left ring finger simply because I thought it looked nice. For the first several months at my current job, no one said anything about it. One coworker was trying to get personal with me over these months. I always kept my responses strictly professional and avoided any personal discussions. She said she found out I wasn't married or engaged and felt deceived by my ring. I felt uncomfortable. I didn't answer her questions and simply said nothing. I reported her to HR because the interaction felt very inappropriate. She was disciplined and given a warning. My coworkers are saying that I took things too far and I don't understand. I just want to work and be quiet. She's taller and stronger than me and this can escalate into bullying and assault, so reporting it early is a good thing, from my experience. AITA for leaving dinner early after my boyfriend's friend introduced me as the current one? So my boyfriend, 31M, invited me to dinner with his old college group. One of his female friends, 30F, who I've never met before, came late, looked me up and down, then said, "Oh, so you're the current one." Cute. I was stunned. No one laughed, no one corrected her. My boyfriend just kind of chuckled awkwardly and changed the subject. I sat there in silence for another 20 minutes before excusing myself and leaving. I took an Uber home. He called me later and said I embarrassed him by making it a thing and that I should have just been chill because she didn't mean anything by it. He wants me to apologize to her for walking out like a child. AITA for not tolerating that kind of blatant disrespect. My brother-in-law ditched our flat renovation to go on holiday, so I destroyed the gift he was polishing for himself. A few years ago, my wife and I finally scraped together enough money to renovate the kitchen and bathroom in our first flat. It wasn't a small spend, we'd been saving for months. I wanted to hire an independent builder, someone with no emotional strings attached. But my wife insisted we use her brother-in-law's building company. He'll do a good job, and it keeps it in the family, she said. I caved. Mistake number 1. The first few days, everything was ripped out, kitchen gone, bathroom gone, we're basically camping in our own home. Then, out of nowhere, her brother-in-law disappears. Just ghosted us. No replies to messages, no updates, nothing. A few days later, we find out he'd gone on holiday. For 2 weeks. Without a single word of warning. So now our flat is unlivable. No kitchen, no bathroom. We had to couch surf with friends for almost 2 weeks. Awesome. When he finally returns, the work resumes, but barely. He's showing up for maybe an hour or 2 a day, clearly juggling other jobs. We're about 5 weeks into a 2 to 3 week max job and barely any progress has been made. The place still looks like a bomb site. Now, here's the petty part. We had this freestanding IKEA butcher's block in the kitchen, nothing fancy, but a decent solid wood surface I had used for years. He'd asked me if he could have it once a new kitchen went in, since it wouldn't be needed anymore. I said sure, figuring the work would be done soon and we'd be rid of it anyway. Well, I came home one day to see the butcher's block had been perfectly sanded down, oiled, polished, it looked brand new. He had clearly spent days working on this thing. Meanwhile, my kitchen was still a gutted shell, the bathroom half installed. I snapped. I dragged the thing outside, took a hammer to it, and smashed it to bits. Straight into the wheelie bin. The next day he came in and noticed. Didn't say a word, just looked kind of confused and disappointed. I didn't say a word either. The job took another 4 weeks to finish, learnt not to use family in the future for stuff like this, and glad he didn't get the new butcher's block. We have never spoken about the butcher's block since. Ada for secretly cheating on our vegetarian diet that my wife made our family do? I want to start by saying I, 38M, love my family and wife, 35F, and I have never been the type to do anything like this before. 12 months ago, my wife converted to a new religion, which included her giving up eating meat. The whole family, me and our 2 young boys, were supportive of this, and we held a vegetarian-only dinner that night as a little sign of support. Life continues for another 8 months basically unchanged, the boys and I eat meat, and my wife doesn't. However, things start to change around that 8 to 10 month marker, can't remember exactly. Basically, along with not eating meat, my wife now no longer wanted to be around it. This wasn't the only thing. Things continue to progress. Basically, my wife started to replace things in the house with substitutes. First, the pork in the house was swapped out for jackfruit, eggs were swapped out for substitutes like just egg, shirts were only bought from clean brands like plant-based clothing, and deodorants were swapped out for deodorant pills like Go Scentless. You get the idea. To say this was creating a rift would be an understatement, and eventually, I brought up to our wife that again, while we 100% support her in her decisions around these things, I didn't think it should change things for the boys and me, unless of course, they wanted it. Wife argued that her values have changed, and that being around some of this stuff was really hard for her, and wanted us to support her. For the next 2 to 3 months, the house was a place of pretty high tension. It had gotten so bad that the boys have friends bringing them meat from their houses since it was now completely gone from ours. Anyway, about a week ago my wife went away on a few-day-long business trip. Meaning I was watching the boys Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Basically, and I'm a bit ashamed to type this out, but the boys and I mostly ate meat, basically every chance we got. This was all fine and dandy, the boys and I had a great time until my wife returned home, and it somehow slipped out what we had done. I have never seen her so disappointed in us. After putting the boys to bed we argued for hours about how I was setting a poor example for the boys, that I should respect the decisions made by my wife, even if they're tough and inconvenient. It's hard to argue back, because I can see her side, but it boils down simply to just I don't want to be vegetarian/vegan, and neither do the boys. They suspended me for a misunderstanding, so I took the best, much-needed vacation at their expense. On a Monday night I asked my manager if I could have my morning shift covered. He said no worries, the new girl is coming in to train and there will be plenty of servers for the slow lunch rush. Sounded good to me. The next day the owner, who has the patience of a caffeinated squirrel, messages me asking why I did not show up. I told him exactly what my manager said. He said she is not a real server yet, and the way he saw it I missed my shift because I did not have another waiter cover for me. So he suspended me for a week. I am their best waiter, never late, always on time, and pulling in the best reviews. Some reviews on Google even have my name in them. But I just said alright boss, see you in a week. So I did what any overworked employee would do. I slept and watched movies, played disc golf, and hung out with my friends and girlfriend. It was the most relaxing week I have ever had. On Friday night the owner calls me begging for help. They were so short-handed they were practically using the dishwashers as waiters. He wanted me to come in for Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday morning, all while I was still on suspension. I told him I had not learned my lesson yet and could not possibly come in. When I came back the next week everyone was very, very nice to me. They still are. She always called me just the boyfriend, so I helped her move, quietly. My girlfriend's sister never liked me. Every time we were around family, she'd say stuff like, "You're just her boyfriend, not family," or "Don't get too comfortable." I let it slide for over a year because I didn't want to start drama. A few months ago, she needed help moving apartments. Nobody else was free, and she asked me. I said sure, showed up early, loaded the truck, even brought her a coffee. She was kinda shocked. When we finished, she just looked at me and said, "I didn't think you'd actually show." I just smiled and said, "Yeah, I'm just the boyfriend of your sister, remember?" She stared at me for a second and acted like guilty. She's been way more respectful since. Cab driver rips me to shreds, thinking I can't understand him, but I can. Obligatory, this happened several years ago, a few months after I had moved to Chicago. I had moved there from Romania, where I'd been living and going to school. Love Romania, people are great, drop what you're doing and visit. Anyway, while I was there, due to my living situation, I had to learn the language fast and thoroughly. Not many people around me spoke English, outside of the uni I was at. So fast forward to the few months after I arrived in Chicago. Imagine my surprise when the driver of the Uber I had ordered appeared to have a Romanian name. The area had a lot of Eastern Europeans, so I guess it shouldn't have been so surprising. I was really excited to talk to him and make sure I wasn't getting rusty, maybe make a friend. Up pulls the guy, I get in, he greets me, but he appears to be on the phone with a buddy/family member, so I just sit quietly in the back, listening in a bit. The person on the other end asks if the driver is getting off work soon. He responded with something like the following. "No, I still have a few hours left, then I'll go home. Right now I have someone in the car. God, I hate this country, the women here are so fat and ugly. At least this one has a nice chest, but why can't she lose some weight?" And he goes on and on about all the problems with me and other American women. Now I've always been a bit on the chunky side, and you best believe the Romanians love to comment on it, so I was used to it. But I was a bit shocked that this guy was going off like that. Anyway, I'm just kinda sitting bemused in the back seat as we near my destination. Then I tell him, in Romanian, with all my might trying to pull off the distinct accent of the region I had been living in, "Can you just pull over there, on the right?" I swear this guy's head did the Exorcist girl head move and he turned a shade of red I have seen nowhere else in nature. He didn't say anything, just pulled over. When I got out I said thanks and added, "You're not attractive and you're also fat, so maybe you shouldn't make comments like that." I have never again reached such levels of self-pride. Cab driver rips me to shreds, thinking I can't understand him, but I can. Obligatory, this happened several years ago, a few months after I had moved to Chicago. I had moved there from Romania, where I'd been living and going to school. Love Romania, people are great, drop what you're doing and visit. Anyway, while I was there, due to my living situation, I had to learn the language fast and thoroughly. Not many people around me spoke English, outside of the uni I was at. So fast forward to the few months after I arrived in Chicago. Imagine my surprise when the driver of the Uber I had ordered appeared to have a Romanian name. The area had a lot of Eastern Europeans, so I guess it shouldn't have been so surprising. I was really excited to talk to him and make sure I wasn't getting rusty, maybe make a friend. Up pulls the guy, I get in, he greets me but he appears to be on the phone with a buddy/family member, so I just sit quietly in the back, listening in a bit. The person on the other end asks if the driver is getting off work soon. He responded with something like the following. No, I still have a few hours left, then I'll go home. Right now I have someone in the car. God, I hate this country, the women here are so fat and ugly. At least this one has a nice chest, but why can't she lose some weight? And he goes on and on about all the problems with me and other American women. Now I've always been a bit on the chunky side and you best believe the Romanians love to comment on it, so I was used to it. But I was a bit shocked that this guy was going off like that. Anyway, I'm just kinda sitting bemused in the back seat as we near my destination. Then I tell him, in Romanian, with all my might trying to pull off the distinct accent of the region I had been living in, can you just pull over there, on the right? I swear this guy's head did the Exorcist girl head move and he turned a shade of red I have seen nowhere else in nature. He didn't say anything, just pulled over. When I got out I said thanks and added, you're not attractive and you're also fat so maybe you shouldn't make comments like that. I have never again reached such levels of self-pride by accidentally becoming a Catholic priest. As with most of these stories, this didn't happen today, but several months ago. I had a day off from work and decided to have some alone time. As a religious man, I drove to the local cathedral in my state and sat on the steps, reading the Bible, overlooking the city below, and enjoying some peace. It was a chilly fall day, and I was leaning against a pillar, resting on the steps, when a woman approached me. Excuse me, do you know what the photography policy is here? Do you know where we're allowed to take pictures? I glanced behind the woman and saw a group of about 10 men and women in their nicest formal attire. I particularly noticed a woman with her hair nicely done, wearing a long, flowing white dress. This was a wedding party here to take some photos, and the woman I was speaking to was the photographer. As it so happened, I actually did know the photography policy for the cathedral. My wife is an avid photographer, and we had taken photos from the hill overlooking the city just a few weeks prior. I got up and walked over to the couple, along with the photographer. I pointed out the approved photo spots, explained the policy to the group, and told them about some other parts of the cathedral that would make for excellent shots without violating any of the guidelines. I also gave my most heartfelt congratulations to the couple, wishing them well and an amazing wedding day. Everyone was so thankful and happy to have run into me. As I turned to leave, the couple asked if they could take a photo with me. Odd, I thought, but why not? We took a quick photo on the steps before I got ready to leave. As I was getting ready to depart, the wife and photographer approached me. The wife said, "Thank you so much for your help, Father. It's really great that the clergy here are so welcoming and helpful. We're from out of state, getting married here because our family wants us to. I appreciate your time with your busy schedule." I froze. I glanced down at myself. I'm dressed in a nice shirt and slacks with a cross necklace hanging out, but I definitely didn't look like a priest. Maybe she thought I was a priest in casual attire? No idea. Unsure of what to do, all I said was congratulations again before quickly heading to my car and getting out of there. To this day, I realize that some couple has a wedding photo with me in it and a story about the nice priest who helped them out. Felt too awkward at the time to inform them of their error. So, I guess I was promoted, just from being in the right place at the right time. My wife will be surprised to learn we are suddenly Catholic, and I am now a priest, whipped for burping every time my boyfriend does, after he once said we weren't ready for that step when I did it. I, 33F, have been dating my boyfriend, 32M, for almost 2 years now. We've been living together for over a year and things are going great. We are open, we talk freely of our dreams, our projects, and all. We talked early on in the relationship about marriage, kids, and all that. Everything is aligned. Now a couple of months ago, I accidentally burped in front of him. I did not mean to, but sometimes it just slips out. He looked at me, completely shocked, and said, "I don't think we are ready for this step yet in our relationship." He smiled while saying this, but I could sense his discomfort. Fast forward to a few weeks ago, he underwent a major operation. Not a life-threatening stuff, but something big enough that he had to take a few weeks off to get better. Every day, he gets better, but small things like eating, bathing or walking out can be really challenging. Since then, though, he had been burping non-stop. I don't mean a little bit of noise and air. I mean full-on belching, with notes, vibrato, open mouth, and all. It is like he is trying to make the walls vibrate. At some point I wondered if he was trying to sing the national anthem. It goes on and on. I mean, who asked for an encore at that point? So, I asked him. I thought we were not ready for that step yet? Please baby, it is one of the few things that make me feel better. I looked at him deadpanned, and he looked back at me with a massive shit-eating grin. So. Whipped if I burp whenever he does it. Update. For those who told me to burp back, I tried, but I'm not a natural burper, seriously, those who can do it on command, you have my eternal respect. I, unfortunately, cannot join the burp parade. So, after your responses, when he burped again, I stood up and released, to the best of my abilities, the fattest fart I could muster. Like in Frozen, I let it go. And it was bigger than his burp. I am a little proud of myself. He looked at me like I grew a new head. So I said, that's right. Now two can play this game. We started laughing like crazy. Sometimes, I just fart for the pleasure of revenge. Then he asks me if I farted and I reply, it makes me feel better, with a shit-eating grin. It makes us laugh like idiots. Now, every time he burps, I fart, or at least try to. It does not go on command either. Our evenings are now filled with a symphony of bodily fluids and villainous cacklings, hee hee. I guess we are no longer shy about this anymore. She picked her ex and took the dog. I took the money. Guess who came barking back? So my ex and I have been having a really hard time lately. She decided she wanted to go back to her ex and has been a bitch ever since. We broke up and now she wants everything including the dog, that she never even wanted in the first place. She loves the dog too, but never walked him, hated cleaning up little surprises here and there, and whatever. I wanted the dog, plus I trained him and paid for professional training, so I took responsibility for him and we've been buddies ever since. The problem is that she wants me to move out and wants half of everything. We weren't even married, LMAO. Anyway, the house is a rental but I always paid for it and I was living here before we even started dating. So nope, not today girl. She wanted to move in with her ex because he lives with his parents. But not today. So what did she do? She managed to get inside without being seen by the cameras, since she knows the dead angles, and got into the backyard and called for the dog since the door has that little hole for the dog to go outside whenever he wants. How dumb do you have to be to hide from the cameras but then scream his name? The cameras also record sound, LMAO. So I just went to the police station and they said they couldn't do anything because we're not married and there's no evidence that we actually broke up or that she entered the house illegally. Alright. So I went to her parents' house looking for the dog since she didn't reply to my messages and my buddy heard me and immediately started barking and trying to come in my direction. Her mom didn't want to open the door completely so he couldn't get to me and even closed the door mid-conversation. So I couldn't get the dog. No worries. We had a joint bank account with some savings that we both invested in, even though I invested 80% or more. And we had agreed to split it 50-50. So no dog, no money. I transferred all that money into a crypto wallet and waited 2 days. All of a sudden she remembered my number and asked WTF happened to the money. I told her I invested it in crypto but I could cash it out and gave her a choice. She could choose between getting the money back or keeping the dog. And she opted for the money. Suddenly she agreed to give me back my dog. So she did. But it sucks so bad that unfortunately, I lost all the money. What a gambler I am, huh? By the way, there are no more dead angles at home. Ada for telling my husband I already knew that he cheated on me. A week and a half ago I was on his phone to order something on Amazon. There was a notification from a number I didn't recognize. I clicked on it and there were months worth of flirty texts, inappropriate pictures, and she even asked him to come to her apartment a few times. I knew I couldn't stay with him because he was a cheater, obviously, but I couldn't break things off immediately. We have 3 kids together, a 5-year-old, a 1-year-old, and a 2-month-old. I don't want him to get the kids but we signed a prenup BC. He had some money he wanted to protect. I was scared that a judge would give him custody BC. He can afford to take care of them better but the prenup had a clause where it's dissolved if he's unfaithful. I wasn't going to do anything crazy. I just wanted to find a lawyer before mentioning anything to him. But yesterday he told me about the cheating and apologized. I told him I knew about it already. He got mad at me for not telling him sooner. He told me that I'm ruining our family by keeping secrets from him. Like, okay, hypocrite much? But anyways, now I'm also wondering if I should forgive him since he came clean. I still want our kids to grow up normal. I don't want a broken home for them. If he was willing to tell me and to apologize, could we still make things work? Ada for not telling him I knew sooner? Wibda if I still divorce him after he told me about it. Guy's card declined before the storm. I couldn't let his kid leave empty-handed. Publix was packed today, everyone panic buying for the hurricane. I'm in line with my wife when I notice a dad and his daughter at the register. His card wasn't going through. He kept checking his phone like maybe the money would magically appear. You could see he was embarrassed. His daughter was just quietly watching it all. Eventually the cashier calls the manager, they void the transaction, and the two of them start walking out. No groceries, just that heavy kind of silence. I couldn't watch that. Told my wife, I gotta do something, and slipped out of line. I asked the manager, was it a payment issue? I'll take care of it. She nodded. I caught the guy right before he hit the door. Hey man, come back in. Let me get that for you. He looked stunned. Like I'd offered him $1 million and a nap. They'd already started putting his groceries back, so I asked the staff to hold off and swiped my card. $63 and some change. Totally worth it. He tried to pay me back with a few bucks. I said no. He hugged me. A real, tight, grateful hug. His daughter gave me a shy smile like I just handed her a puppy. My wife? Crying in the parking lot. We talk about being decent people. That was my shot. I'm glad I took it. Be that person when the moment comes. Someone might just need their faith in people restored. AITA for not forgiving my parents for treating the kids they adopted better than me? I'm 25, my parents' only biological child. When I was 9 they started fostering and within a couple of months my younger siblings were brought into our family. They're bio-siblings and my parents stopped fostering other kids after they moved in with us so they could focus on adopting Emma and Luke, fake names. Emma and Luke had trauma and behavioral issues because of their trauma. My parents told me that and said we needed to be understanding. But that mindset of they need understanding and my parents not wanting to punish or give consequences remained throughout my childhood and adolescence. Emma and Luke could break things without consequences, got to stay up late without being asked to try and sleep first, they got first priority at dinner for food and lots of other similar things. A few weeks after they moved in with us Emma threw a tantrum because of the toys I had and she smashed 5 of them. My mom calmed her down and babysat her after it and told me I needed to let it go. She and Dad told me they weren't worth replacing when we knew they'd be broken again. Another time Luke was bored so he started opening all the DVD boxes and throwing them at the wall. Most of my movie collection was among them and anything he threw was beyond saving. My parents shrugged it off. There were times Emma and Luke were fighting and throwing their toys at each other and mine got caught in the fight too and were broken and it was like oh well. But the time I fell and broke a toy I was holding and my parents were mad and told me they spent enough money replacing toys without me doing it. And mine was a total accident and I had 2 cut knees and was still being lectured without any comfort from them. There was another time I broke a glass because Mom got the floor wet and I didn't see in time. Dad was in the kitchen when it happened and he called me careless and told me he should make me replace it but Emma or Luke could slam them on the table and break them and nothing was said. At dinner they got to fill their plates first. If they said they were starving and I didn't leave anything when I took my share my parents would scold me. The other thing was if we went out and after I got a job and paid for my stuff, if I got the last of something and Luke or Emma wanted it my parents would talk to me like a child who took it out of their hand. My parents would lecture me for only buying treats for myself too. Or if I didn't share my food when Luke or Emma didn't get enough. There were other things and there's so much I could get into. But this stuff happened all the time and I got so sick of it. I tried to communicate my feelings with my parents. I tried to involve other people to help me bring this to my parents' attention and it did no good so I went very low contact. So low that we see each other at most twice a year and never talk over the phone. My parents confronted me at the first, and maybe only, time we saw each other this year, which happened at a family member's house. They wanted to know why I'm so distant and why I didn't introduce them to my boyfriend and why they hear nothing from me. And why I don't even talk to Emma or Luke. I told them I had explained why so many times before and briefly touched on my issues with them again. They told me it wasn't fair to hold a grudge and to refuse to forgive them. They said they want to be in my life. And they even asked why I never told them I was gay. They told me we could never have a future if I don't forgive them and I said I don't forgive them and I moved on. This upset them enough to have them venting to other family members who warned me they were unhappy. My roommate's girlfriend tried getting me evicted, I got her dumped. This is an old one, but still entertaining. 7 years ago I moved into a 4-bedroom house with 3 of my friends. I was the only woman among 3 dudes, one of the roommates was the owner's son, we were all friends in college and, honestly, it was the best 2 years ever living situation-wise. We all had different work schedules, and because I worked the earliest, 6 a.m., I had the only downstairs bedroom. My friend, let's call him Jay, who worked night shift and got home at 4:30 a.m. had the room above me so that we didn't wake each other coming home. During the week, Jay and I would eat breakfast together before he went to bed and I went to work. We had a jar in the kitchen we all would throw spare cash in, like $5 to $10 at a time each, that was for common groceries like milk, eggs, basic bread, and occasional house meals and beer, because we were in our early to mid-20s. The rule was always that if you used the last of the common use stuff, you'd take from the jar to cover the cost and grab it from the store ASAP. When we grabbed pizza or I'd make a meal for everyone, we used the same fund. This all is very important. About 5 months into the living situation, Jay met Karen and started dating her. He brought her to one of our game nights to introduce her to us to get a feel for how she'd mesh with us, and all was fine when she thought I was only the girlfriend of another roommate. Because we were playing in the dining room right by my room, Karen saw me go in that room to grab a sweater early in the night. Then she saw my roommate, the one she assumed I was dating, go upstairs to grab his phone charger. The entire vibe changed and she started to ask me who I was dating. She was floored when my roommates confirmed I lived there, I had my own room, and I wasn't dating any of them. She saved face, said she was just surprised I'd want to live with 3 men, and we moved on. Cam, the owner's son, and I were the only ones that realized Karen saw this as a problem. After that, she started coming over right after I got off work and only leaving when Jay went to work. If I came out of my room to the living room, she'd ask why I was out there. If I was going to the kitchen she would remark that I was being disrespectful to her and Jay and interrupting their time together. If I was talking to Jay when she got there, she'd practically grind on him and shove her tongue down his throat. She even complained that I was ruining the mood for doing my laundry. Jay had made it clear that he knew she was being a problem and had started pushing for them to just chill in his room. Unfortunately, she used the opportunity to make some of the worst porn imitation noises any of us other roommates had ever heard. We laughed it off and just left those 2 alone. After a couple of weeks, she had gotten drunk before Jay went to work and we insisted she stay in his room and sleep it off. I literally brought her food and Tylenol because girl was going to feel like hell in the morning. The next morning, Jay came home and started making breakfast for me and him when Karen came down and just started screaming. She woke the other 2 roommates up. She accused Jay of cheating, accused me of having relations with all the guys, then made the dumbest statement possible. She demanded I pay Jay back for the food he was wasting on me. Cam literally grabbed a $5 from the jar and slapped it in Jay's hand. Cam and I had a come to Jesus talk with Jay. We both told him if she couldn't deal with me living there, then she could no longer come over. Jay asked for a week to figure things out, trying to claim she was just caught by surprise when she saw him making me breakfast and not thinking clearly. We gave him a week. In that week, mysteriously the grocery jar was getting raided. We all noticed and talked about it. We noticed my clean dishes were appearing, still clean, in the sink. Little things were disappearing from common rooms and weirdly appearing in my room. Karen was being sweet. She was not exactly covert. Cam and I knew she was sowing chaos but, being curious where this was headed, we just watched. After a week, Cam gets a call from his mom asking if I had been going through something lately. Apparently a concerned party had sent her picture after picture and story upon story about how I was trashing the house and stealing. Not tipping after overhearing what my waitress said about me. I, 30F, was at a restaurant last night with my mother. She was meeting my boyfriend's mom for the first time. We're punctual people, so we got there about 30 minutes before our reservation. We got seated with no issues. It took the waitress 20 minutes to get to our table even though the restaurant was pretty empty. Right away I could tell that she didn't want to wait on us. She didn't greet us with a hello, she just asked what we wanted to drink. We told her, and I noticed that she didn't write our order down. It took another 15 minutes for our drinks to get to our table, and they were wrong. It's hard to mess up a ginger ale and a vodka soda, but she did. My mom pointed out that she didn't order a Pepsi, and the waitress rolled her eyes, took my mother's glass and disappeared. I excused myself to use the washroom shortly after. I had no idea where I was going, so I went to the entrance to ask one of the hostesses there. While I was walking up to the server area, I overheard my waitress talking to some other hostesses. She was pissed that she had to wait on a black table because they never tip well. My mother and I were the only black people in the restaurant. She wasn't even whispering when she said it either. I wasn't stunned, but her lack of effort started to make sense. I interrupted their conversation, and I asked where the bathroom was. I didn't let on that I had heard what they were talking about. When I got out of the bathroom, my boyfriend and his mom were already seated. My boyfriend and his mother are white. When my waitress saw the rest of our party, she did a 180. Her service was stellar. She took notes, told jokes, and our water glasses were always filled. She didn't make another mistake. Because the night went so well, I decided to treat everyone and pay the check. She gave me the machine, and I smiled at her while I keyed in 0% for a tip. She didn't notice until after the receipt had been printed out. By that time, all of us had already started to leave. She tapped me on the shoulder and asked if I had made a mistake on the bill. I told her I didn't think so, and looked at the receipt. She asked if there was a problem with her service, and I said her service was fantastic, but since I was a black woman, I don't tip well. Her face went white, and she kind of laughed nervously, and I laughed as well. I walked out after that, but my boyfriend's mom asked what had happened. I told her what I had overheard, and my boyfriend's mom said that I should have tipped her anyway because it shows character. She seemed pretty pissed at me after that. My boyfriend and my mom are both on my side, but I'm wondering if I should have just thrown in a $2 tip. Ada for selling my Taylor Swift tickets after my GF cheated? A few months back, I, 27M, won some money on stake and decided to surprise my girlfriend, 25F, with Taylor Swift tickets for her Vancouver show. She's been a massive Swiftie since forever and I knew this would mean the world to her. I spent around $800 for 2 really good seats. Last week, I discovered she'd been secretly meeting up with her work friend for months. I found out because she accidentally left her Instagram DMs open on my laptop. She'd been using it to print something, and I saw weeks of flirty messages and plans to meet up. When I confronted her, she tried to deny it at first but eventually admitted they'd kissed several times and had been having an emotional affair. I was devastated. These tickets were meant to be a special experience for us, and I couldn't stomach the thought of taking her after this betrayal. Rather than let them go to waste, I decided to sell them. Given how insane the Taylor Swift ticket market is right now, I managed to sell them for $2,400, triple what I paid. When she found out I sold the tickets, she completely lost it. She's been blowing up my phone, calling me petty and cruel, saying I ruined her dream and that the tickets were a gift so they belonged to her. Her friends are also messaging me saying I'm an awful person for using the tickets to hurt her. I feel like I had every right to sell tickets that I bought with my own money, especially after what she did. But she's making me feel like I took things too far. Ada for announcing our pregnancy at my brother's wedding after he proposed at mine. My brother said he was going to propose at my wedding. I told him no. That it was a day about myself and my wife and we did not want any distractions. My mom lost her shit. She said that he wanted family he might not see again for a while to be a part of the proposal. I said I did not give a shit and that if he did it I would have him kicked out. He did it. And my mom said if I tried kicking him out she would leave too. I just remember seething inside. My brother got married last weekend. Instead of a welcome to the family toast I used the time to announce that we were expecting our first baby. My mom was upset but my grandmother told her to sit down and shut up. We spent most of the reception talking to family we would not see again for a while about our coming baby. My mom says I was an asshole for taking attention away from my brother on his wedding day. She got really mad when I reminded her that she threatened to leave my wedding if I kicked him out after he proposed. I have the screen cap of the text messages. AITA for telling my husband he exaggerated when he said my kids ruined his daughter's birthday? Last week was my stepdaughter's, SD, 14th birthday. She was in the hospital days prior for a medical issue and now she's better. My husband threw her a small birthday party. Unbeknownst to me, my boys, 16 and 12, decided to pull a funny prank and mess with the birthday cake that they made for her. Instead of adding icing on the cake, they added mayonnaise. It didn't go well and my SD's reaction was to cry. My husband blew up at the boys for what they did, but they said they were just trying to prank her since it's the norm and they always prank each others. My husband said it was the wrong time to do this on her birthday, especially after getting out of the hospital. He told the boys they ruined her birthday, but I told him he exaggerated with this statement. He got upset and yelled at me for defending this behavior and being an enabler. I am because the boys love her, that's why they act like this, but my husband was having none of it. Both he and SD aren't speaking to me nor the boys. AITA for saying he exaggerated. AITA for telling my friend I won't drive her to work anymore after she kept making us late. I, 25F, have been giving my friend Lena, 27F, a ride to work for the past 3 months. We live a few blocks apart, work at the same place, different departments, and start at the same time, so it made sense at first. At the beginning, everything was fine. But over the past month, she started running late, like really late. I text her when I leave my house, and sometimes I end up sitting outside for 10 to 15 minutes waiting. A few times she's even asked me to swing by a coffee shop or drop her off at a different entrance, which adds time. We've both gotten written up for being late twice now. I finally told her this week that I can't keep driving her if she's not ready on time. I said I like her and I don't want to fall out over something small, but I need to look out for myself and my job. She got really quiet and said she didn't think it was that big a deal and that I was being kind of cold over something that was supposed to be a favor. Now she's barely talking to me at work, and a mutual friend told me she feels ditched. I didn't mean to hurt her, but I feel like I was doing her a favor and she started treating it like a service. I'm not her Uber driver. So, AITA for cutting off the ride after she kept making me late. AITA for exposing my sister's fake cancer to our parents after she refused to come clean herself. I, 34F, just found out that my sister, 31F, who has been telling my whole family she has cancer for the last 8 months, has been lying. She shaved her head, said she was doing chemo, and had our parents move in to help her through treatment. I started to have doubt when, besides also staying out late relatively frequently, she would never let anyone attend appointments with her, and she clearly had way too much energy for someone going through aggressive chemotherapy. Last week, I ran into the office manager of my sister's oncologist at a coffee shop, small town. I casually mentioned my sister, and the office manager was confused. She had no idea who I was talking about. I did some digging through doctors and spoke to my sister about what I learned, and she broke down and spilled her guts. It turns out she fabricated the whole story because she was in over her head with debt and wasn't able to afford her apartment anymore. The cancer story got our parents to move in and she could then stop paying her bills. I was furious and told her that she had 24 hours to tell our parents the truth or I would. She asked me not to tell them because it would ruin her relationship with them. She did not tell them, so yesterday I took everything to our parents. Our parents are heartbroken. My sister is acting like I had no right to out her, and she didn't even say this to our parents. She was going to stage a miraculous recovery next month. She said I ruined her life, and that family should be trying to defend each other rather than expose each other. Entitled neighbor demands I stop using my own Wi-Fi because it's distracting her plants. Yes. You read that correctly. I live in a townhouse complex with paper-thin walls and a whole bunch of colorful personalities. One of them is my neighbor, a woman in her late 50s who wears tie-dye every day, insists she has a telepathic connection with crystals, and once told me my aura was too digital. I'm usually sitting out front on my phone with my computer relaxing. I suppose that's why she feels I'm too digital? But her latest stunt truly took the cake. Last week she knocked on my door holding a small potted plant in one hand and a printout of what looked like a hand-drawn diagram of a Wi-Fi signal in the other. She told me we needed to talk about my router. I was confused. She then explained that my Wi-Fi was disrupting the vibrational energy of her succulents. She pointed to the drawing, which honestly looked like a sad jellyfish, and said the signal beamed directly through our shared wall and bombarded her plants non-stop. According to her, the plants were spiritually wilting because they thought the Wi-Fi was sunlight, but it wasn't. The best part? Her plants were in a dark hallway with no natural light. She claimed they had been fine until I got a new modem and then gave me two options, either turn off my Wi-Fi every night between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m., apparently the plant rest hours, or let her share my Wi-Fi and move the router into her unit so she could regulate the signal properly. I laughed because I thought she was joking. She wasn't. She stormed off as I was laughing at her. I'm still currently waiting to see what comes out of this. AITA for not telling my sister the name chosen for my unborn son because she used her BBF's baby name for her daughter? My sister and I are both pregnant. This is her second child and my first. We're both having boys. When my sister had her daughter 3 years ago, her BFF was pregnant at the same time. My sister complained for 8 months that they didn't have any idea what to name my niece, and then all of a sudden she had a name right before she gave birth. After my niece was born and her name was announced, my sister and her BFF started fighting. The BFF said that was the name she'd chosen for her baby girl, and my sister used the same first and middle name for my niece, and she couldn't believe she'd do that. My sister said it's first come first serve and she needed a name badly. That her BFF had time to find another name. My sister is due before me, a few weeks before, and with that in mind I don't want her to do the same thing to me. And she has asked. Nobody knows we're having a boy except me and my husband, and we plan to keep it that way. But my sister has asked what our boy name is, and as an afterthought she asked for our girl name too when she realized I knew what she was getting at. I refused to tell her. She tried to whine about name sharing being the fun part of pregnancy. I made up a couple of names on the spot to tell her and she saw through it. She told me to just tell her the name and I said no again. She asked a few more times, she even asked in front of our family. It was our brother who joked that nobody should tell the baby named Thief the name they'd chosen. My sister got upset and asked if that's why I wouldn't tell her. She told me I was holding something against her that she never did to me. Mom asked why I couldn't just share the name and everyone would know my husband, and I chose it first if my sister used it, but I still said no. Ida, M37 caught girlfriend F31 secretly recording me. My girlfriend was leaving to a concert with her sister. Before she left she set up at least 3 devices to record just audio. I found the 3 set up, one was in our bedroom, one in our bathroom, and the other in the back room of our house. When she came home she acted like nothing happened and she just stalled until I had to try and get sleep. The next morning I woke up, went through the morning routine, and once she was up and going I asked for her phone. She started to hand it over until I asked for her passcode. She has always had access to mine at any time and any point. She pulled back and asked why. That when I told her I had busted her and she instantly denied it. I told her I took pics to prove it and showed her. She kept denying until I walked away. Then admitted it to me, and she knew she was busted because she heard on the recordings me freaking out once I found the first. Now I don't feel comfortable in my own house. She invaded my privacy in the one place I feel it should be the safest. I told her we are not together anymore and moved her out of the bedroom. Tofu by accidentally proposing in a Home Depot. My girlfriend and I were at Home Depot picking out a new shower head. We were joking around, pretending to roleplay as boring suburban homeowners. I said something like, I just want to build a life with you and maybe tile a backsplash someday. She laughed and said, wow, that almost sounded like a proposal. So I, being a dramatic idiot, got down on one knee in the plumbing aisle with a washer ring and said, will you marry me, babe? We were laughing until she said yes. Dead serious. Eyes misty. Voice shaking. Yes. Oh my God, yes. I froze. I panicked. I was not proposing. I was pretending. And I just went with it. We're engaged now. Our families know. There's a group chat. I still haven't told her it wasn't real. TLDR, pretended to propose at Home Depot. She thought it was real. Said yes. Now we're accidentally engaged and I'm too scared to explain. AIO for asking my boyfriend to stop calling my C-section the easy way out. I, 25F, gave birth to our son 6 months ago via emergency C-section. It wasn't part of the plan, things got complicated and it was scary, but we're both okay now. Lately, my boyfriend, 28M, has made multiple comments about how I didn't really give birth or took the easy way out. He always says it like a joke, but the more he says it, the more it stings. He once even said it in front of his sister, who thankfully shut him down. I've tried to talk to him about it, and he just laughs and says I'm too sensitive. It's not a real insult, babe. I just mean you didn't have to push. I've explained that it was traumatic, it required surgery, and I'm still recovering from it. But he keeps making the same stupid comment. I finally told him it really bothers me and if he can't stop, I'm not going to laugh it off anymore. He got annoyed and said I'm making a big deal out of nothing. I'm feeling like I overreacted, but I also feel so disrespected. Am I being too emotional? Is it really just a joke? An office lunch thief ate my spicy leftovers and is accusing me of poisoning them. We have a fridge at work. Up to this point, nothing I had in it was stolen. I am quite new, and others have told me that this was a problem. My food is always really, really spicy. I just love it that way. Anyway, I was sitting at my desk when my coworker came running out, having a hard time breathing. He then ran into the bathroom and started being sick. Turns out he ate my clearly labeled lunch. It also was in a cooler lunchbox to keep it cold from work to home, as it's a long drive. There was nothing different about my lunch that day. In fact, it was just the leftovers from my dinner the night before. Fast forward a day and my boss comes in asking if I tried to poison this person. Of course I denied that I had done so. I even took out my current day's lunch and let my boss taste a bit. He was blown away by how spicy it was even though he only took a small bite. I then proceeded to eat several spoonfuls to prove I could eat it with no problem. He said not to worry, and that it was clear to him that I didn't mean any harm, my coworker shouldn't have been eating my food, etc. etc. I thought the issue was over. A week later, I got called up to HR for an investigation, claiming that I did in fact try to do harm to this person and this investigation is still ongoing. What confuses me is there was nothing said about this guy trying to steal my lunch. When I brought it up, they said something along the lines of, "We cannot prove he stole anything." I am confused at this. I thought the proof would be clear. My boss is on my side, but HR seemed to be trying to string me up. Their behavior is quite aggressive. Even if my boss backs me up, they just ignore everything he says. As in, he would say that's clearly not the case and the HR lady wouldn't even look in his direction and continue talking. On top of this, HR claims that it would be well within said coworker's rights to try and sue me. The way it was said seemed to suggest that they suggested this to him as a course of action. How can someone be caught stealing my lunch and then turn around and say I was in the wrong? I don't understand it at all. I don't know what to do. I am afraid that I will lose my job over this. Is there any advice you can give me? I ended up being fired by HR, as she said there was enough of a case to get rid of me before the top boss came back. I consulted a lawyer who sent a letter to the company informing them that I was considering legal action. The letter contained the reasons for doing so and an account of what happened. 1 week later, I got a call from the guy who owns the company asking me to come back, with an apology. Both the HR woman and the thief have been let go. He also gave me a very generous raise, I assumed to gloss everything over. I accepted and am now back at work. As much as I hate to go based on office talk, it seemed that the HR woman and the food thief may have been romantically involved. They were seen a lot outside work together, etc. So I assume it was her protecting him. She may have even believed him and thought I was trying to frame him or something, who knows. I doubt I will get an answer now. Right now I'm working in the previous position with almost double my paycheck, so it's a great turnaround. The boss also opened more doors for me, offering different training courses that I'll be paid for. It's obviously to keep me happy and stop me from taking any legal action, but what more could I ask for? Something unreasonable happened and it's been more than corrected. I'd have been happy with just having my job back. I'd rather have not gone through the whole thing at all though. I just hope I never have to experience this kind of thing again. I don't really have a support group so was on the edge of losing my apartment etc. I can't afford my friend's destination wedding and she is not taking it well. What else can I say to her so she doesn't destroy our friendship? What can I say Tony friend when she is not taking this well? Please help me with wording. I told my friend I cannot be her bridesmaid anymore because I can't afford her wedding package. It is just under $3,000 per person and I have a family of 4. I can't afford just for myself to go. And even if I did, it's a week before Christmas and my husband would have to take work off. So in the end we decided I just cannot go. I told her gently and made sure she felt the love but a few weeks later she's lost IT when I said I was at Comic-Con. She said she is hurt that I am not prioritizing her wedding and not saving money instead blowing money on mini family vacations. She told me how I should be handling my finances if I am in a financial pickle and how you should be saving, because that's how she was able to attend her sister's wedding. After a lot of back and forth, me being very understanding, sharing way too much about my finances and telling her I would go in a heartbeat if I could make it work, she completely ignored everything I said and is at very personality. And basically told me to not even come because I do somehow make it financially work, it won't feel genuine but I feel her guilt tripping isn't genuine. I think she just doesn't like that her ratio from groomsmen to bridesmaids isn't even. It looks like her fiancé's friends care for him more than her friends. My husband even privately texted her that it's about finances and that I am defeated I can't see her get married, she was so cold to him. And it's so unlike her. She talks and thinks like a therapist, I am shocked this is her reaction. I just want to scream at her that she shouldn't have picked a destination wedding if she needed everyone there. TLDR. She basically is saying that me not putting my life on hold with my family so be able to afford her wedding is showing how much our relationship means. How do I gently but firmly word it to her so she doesn't completely throw away 15 years of friendship? Edit. Oh, and I forgot to mention, I threw her an engagement party because I was scared of not being able to go to the wedding, so made sure I did other bridesmaid duties to make her feel special and loved. I made sure to be at every event to celebrate her, even when her own sister didn't, oh, but not the $1,200 bachelorette weekend. She half-assed an apology this morning, basically saying I'm sorry you're poor in a condescending way. Even though ironically this is the richest we've ever been, and still just hovering above living in the red every month. AITA for calling off my wedding and telling my fiancé to move back home with mommy? I'm not going to try and swing this in my favor here by leaving out details or sugarcoating anything. I was mean about it. He was crying. I've been with my fiancé for 7 years and we have been engaged for 3 years. We have gone ahead and tried to do a save the date 4 times now and every single time, his mom convinces him to postpone. It's always a well don't you think you have bigger things to worry about? Whether it be our living situation, we are renting and she thinks we should buy first because we aren't stable, or our money situation, this was her excuse after we loaned her $8,000 so she didn't lose her house but we have plenty of money, as my husband's an RN and I'm a lawyer. It's just always something. We planned for a family gathering in my mom's backyard. She has 3 acres and a beautiful pond and it's just perfect. And we are doing a potluck. So, very low-cost wedding. Plus, everyone we know lives within an hour of the location, so only giving a month or 2 notice is perfectly acceptable in our case. With all this said, his mom has zero reason to try and sway us against it. But her newest argument is that we need to wait until our daughter is at least 3 so she can be our flower girl. She's 7 months old. Well, in December my husband and I talked and we decided we wanted to get married in August. I told him don't let your mom dictate it and he said he wouldn't and that he was tired of listening to her. Fair enough. But last weekend my mother and his mother both came for dinner and I was talking to my mom about what dress I wanted her to wear as the matron of honor. My husband's mom asked when we planned to tell her we had decided on a date and my husband said when we told everyone else. She just said oh and got quiet and took leave maybe 20 minutes later. He had already made plans to go over to her house after dinner to help her with her cable box so he left shortly after that to head over to her place while I drank some wine with my mom. When he got back he was super quiet but said he was just tired and went to bed. But last night he said, at random, my mom kind of has a point. Maybe we should wait until we buy a house so our living situation is a bit more stable. She's not wrong in saying that it should be something we are worried about. I just went silent and didn't comment because I was pissed off. But he kept making comments, like it'll only be a couple of years, 5 at most. I just took my ring off and handed it to him and said I was no longer interested. He immediately started protesting and trying to put the ring back on my finger and I wouldn't let him. I said I was no longer interested in marrying him and maybe he should move back home with mommy because I know for a fact that that woman will make up another excuse the second we buy a house and I'm really just so turned off at the thought of marrying him at this point because I have zero business being with a man who has no backbone and would put our lives on hold in favor of a woman who still wants to scrub his back in the shower. As I said, I was mean about it. But to clear it up now, no, she has not said she wants to scrub his back in the shower but she often talks about how she had to help him shower for months when he was 16 because he broke his leg and as the story goes, he told her he didn't want help and she forced it because she's fucking weird and it's even weirder that she still talks about it like it was a fond memory to see her 16 years old naked. He's crying at this point and I'm stupid calm, maybe because I'm over it, and told him I wanted him to leave. Or I could leave. But those were the only options. He ended up leaving, sobbing the entire time. I do feel bad. I feel gutted. He means everything to me. But I can't do this anymore. Ida? His mom has been blowing up my phone with texts, trying to plead her case and I just texted back and said no, it's fine, you won. Now you can have your baby boy back full time. And blocked her number. My friends think I'm wildly overreacting. ETA, sorry for confusion, I call him my husband by habit and have since before we got engaged. Ada for adopting a dog after I thought my boyfriend broke up with me? My boyfriend was going through a tough time and he said he needed a break. He said he was going to press pause on our relationship and go visit his family in Washington. I asked how you pause a relationship, because I don't understand how that works. He said he needed some time to work on himself and asked me to respect that. After he left I reached out to him a few times via text asking him to let me know he arrived safe and to say hi to his mom for me. I received no response. I tried to call and left a message asking if he had broken up with me. I came to the conclusion that he'd ghosted me, and my friends agreed. I was bummed, and my best friend recommended I find something like a new hobby or a new show to watch that wouldn't make me think of my boyfriend. I decided to get a dog. My boyfriend is horribly allergic to pet dander, so I never even considered getting a pet. However, since he broke up with me, I decided to get one. He's a senior dog from the shelter that needed rescuing. He's low energy and likes to lay with his head in my lap while I read, work, or watch TV. After 6 weeks away my boyfriend texted me that he was back and coming over tomorrow, which was yesterday, so we could talk. I was shocked and texted him back asking what he was talking about. He said he was back and ready to unpause our relationship. He said he would talk to me about everything the next day. I texted back asking what relationship. He didn't answer. Yesterday he showed up and told me he had done a lot of self-examination and was ready to move forward on his life path. He even wanted to talk about moving in together. Then he saw my dog and started freaking out. He asked me how I could get a dog when I know how sick he gets. I told him that since he broke up with me, I didn't think it mattered. He said he didn't break up with me. I said he ghosted me. He said he communicated with me telling me he was pressing pause and visiting family. I said not answering texts is ghosting. We argued in circles and then he said he had to leave because he was getting an allergic reaction, even though he was standing in the doorway, not inside. I feel like he broke up with me and it was okay that I got a dog. He says that he never did and therefore it's a horrible act of disregard to have gotten a dog. Which of us is right? My best friend said I should break up with him because he's a jerk. I don't think I should have to break up with someone that already broke up with me. If I break up with him I'm basically agreeing with him that he didn't break up with me and therefore I was an asshole for getting the dog. Right, Ada? My daughter came out as gay, I feel like I have failed as a parent. My daughter, 23F, just came out as a lesbian. She held a dinner for the whole family, drank a whole lot and finally at the end, very nervously said she was gay. Everyone just looked at each other, trying to figure out what the big deal was. My reaction, I have always suspected, was okay, who wants dessert? My daughter later told me she expected more support. I told her there was no need to come out, she could have just invited her girlfriend, just like she would have a boyfriend. I told her she didn't need to hold a dinner party and announce it, all of us loved her and didn't care if she was gay/straight/trans. She burst into tears. The thing is, I have always made sure my daughter knows she is loved no matter what and no one in the family cares who is LGBT+, we have several family members who are gay. So I am genuinely confused as to why she felt the need to come out. I feel I have failed as a parent because she felt the need to come out, instead of just knowing she was free to love anyone she wants, without judgment from me. I have no idea how I was supposed to be supportive, because it is not a big deal to me. I told her I would attend protests and even go to gay bars with her. But she is still mad at me. If you think I am the can you please tell me how I can be more supportive?
Data for telling a woman at the gym that she's embarrassing herself? I go to the gym a lot. About 6-ish months ago I noticed a woman I'll call Andrea. That's not her name, but it will be for the rest of this post. I don't know if Andrea started going to the gym 6 months ago or if that's just when I noticed her. Full disclosure, I spoke to her first, but I had no way of knowing what the result would be. A lot of the machines at this gym have little entertainment systems attached to them that can access local channels. I got on a treadmill and realized the TV on the treadmill wasn't working. Andrea was walking past and I said, "Hey, do you know if there's an issue with the cable? This TV isn't working, but I don't know if it's just this one or all of them." She said the same thing happened to her on a different machine. I thanked her. That was the whole interaction. A week later she asked me for some electrolyte powder for her water. I said I didn't have any. She was cool with that and asked me how long I'd been coming to the gym and what I did for work. I answered and returned her questions. She said she was new to the area and worked in private security. We had a few more chill conversations after that. 6 weeks ago she asked me out. For reasons I won't get into here, I wasn't interested. I declined. She said not to worry about things being awkward at the gym if we don't work out. I said that wasn't the issue, just not looking to date right now. She kept talking to me, and at first I kept talking to her, but I started to think something might be wrong, and I started avoiding her. 2 weeks ago she walked up to me while I was on a machine with only one way to properly dismount that involved stepping into wheat she was standing. She asked if I was avoiding her. I said I was and apologized. I said I just don't want to date right now. She said I don't have to avoid her to not date her. I said okay. I kept avoiding her though. Tonight while I was working out she confronted me again about avoiding her. I had a bad day and told her to leave me alone. She asked why I'm being such a prick, and I said because I wanted her to leave me alone. I then said that she was embarrassing herself and needs to stop. She put her foot on top of the weights, and I thought she was going to press down on them, so I let go of the bar very quickly, causing the weights to slam and make a loud noise. Several people looked over. She said, "Now who's embarrassing himself," and walked away. Did I go too far by saying that? Do I owe her an apology? Update: I went in early this morning for a run and told the front desk staff about Andrea putting her foot on the weights. They said they would talk to her. Then, after work, I went in again for a regular workout. I was working on my legs when she walked up to my machine. The first thing she did was apologize about the weights. I don't know if someone talked to her or if that was of her own initiative. I accepted her apology and apologized for saying she was embarrassing herself. She said she forgave me, but if I wanted to really make it up to her I could buy her a drink and she would buy me one too to make up for the weights. I said maybe we should buy our own drinks, meaning separately at different places and times, and she misunderstood me and asked when and where. I told her I meant that I didn't want to go out with her. She said this wouldn't be a date but a reset for our friendship. I said I didn't want to be friends. She said I was being a douche and asked what my problem is. I said the weight incident made me uncomfortable, and I would rather us just give each other space. She then asked me if my problem with her is that she's Hispanic. I was so taken aback. I didn't even know she was until she said that. I said no, that she just makes me uncomfortable. She wanted me to explain what about her made me uncomfortable, and I tried to do so, but she argued with every point I made. I got frustrated and told her to just stay away from me. She said fine and that I have a lot of maturing to do. Then she walked away. I'm hoping that's the end of it. Actual update: Andrea is banned from the gym. I was running on the treadmill and watching TV. She came up to talk to me, and I ignored her, staring at the TV. She raised her voice and I continued to ignore her. She reached out and pulled the safety tab out of the treadmill, the one you connect to your wrist so the treadmill stops if you fall, causing the treadmill to come to a sudden stop. I tripped and fell onto the controls and TV, scratching my chin on the top of the screen. I went to the front desk with Andrea following me. I told them what she did. She kept trying to interrupt me and talk over me, but the woman at the front desk told her to be quiet and wait her turn. I told her Andrea pulled out the safety tab while I was running and injured me. The woman at the front desk then asked Andrea what happened. Andrea said I was staring into the middle distance, like I was in some kind of voyage state, and she thought I was having a medical episode so she pulled the tab. The woman at the front desk asked for her membership card. Andrea didn't want to give it to her, but the woman at the front desk said if she didn't she would ban her. Andrea gave her the card and the woman at the front desk said to leave and she was suspended for a month. Andrea objected and got into an argument with the woman at the front desk that escalated into Andrea calling the woman an N-word B-word. So she was banned permanently. I hesitate to call that a happy ending because the poor gym employee had to put up with racial harassment, but I won't deny getting to watch her cut up Andrea's membership card felt good. Update. Last night I went to a bar near my apartment to meet up with some friends. The three of us were drinking and having a good time when Andrea walked up. I never saw her enter the bar. I only noticed her when she was in front of us. She greeted me and said it was good to see me and leaned in to try to kiss me. I pushed her away from me and she fell, but one of my friends caught her. She started yelling and asking what the fuck is wrong with me. I told her to stay away from me and not come any closer. She asked if I was embarrassed of her and didn't want my friends to see her. I said this is the third time you've tried to assault me and I want you to stay away from me. At that point the bouncer showed up to ask what was going on. Andrea said I pushed her. I tried to explain that she tried to kiss me and is stalking me, but I was drunk and not doing a great job. My friends also tried to explain that I was innocent, but they were also drunk. Security kicked me out of the bar. My friends walked me home. I am definitely going to try to get a restraining order. This has gone way too far.